As you're using these services, as you are migrating your services online, being an informed consumer is tremendously important. Knowing what you're getting, what are you paying for? What services are they providing you with? So asking for their backup policies. Where is your information saved? How frequently is it saved? How safe is it? How many servers do they have? Ask for that information. Be informed. Because if it fails and you didn't ask those questions, who do you have to blame? If you're spending your money, your hard-earned money, and you're putting your data at risk, make sure you know what's happening with it. Make sure you know what's covered in your terms of service, because if you expect something particular from that service, Dropbox as an example, if you are expecting that they're going to do an automatic backup and they don't, you should know that. What are your expectations of that service? Make sure you read those terms of service if possible. If they're too long and cumbersome, see if you can communicate with a human being. Ask questions rather than having to navigate. Knowing what your needs are, knowing what's important to you will help you ask those questions so that you can be informed. The most important thing about information is that you get the information that you need. There's a lot of information on the planet, but if you need what you need, that's what needs to be answered. Investigating the company that you're doing business with. I do this in a few different ways. One, I will Google or use some other search engine to research that company. What's being said about them? I often will say, company XYZ, good review. Company XYZ, bad review. See what pops up. Do the name and do the reviews and see what kind of different search results come up. You can use Yelp as well. Yelp is a great decision-making engine. It allows you to make decisions based on customer opinion. When you use something like Yelp, you have to be aware that there are some people that don't have enough to do, and they spend a lot of time complaining. Taking it with a grain of salt, and as you are using the internet more and more, your internal sensors are getting more and more fine-tuned. So you are understanding how they're communicating and their underlying desires, their intentions, if they're being paid to post that review. Listen to your internal sensor. It will tell you a lot of information if you listen. So the comprehension of what's happening out there is very important, but investigating the companies that you do business with, the last thing I do is I ask my friends. I ask the customers that I work with, I'm thinking of using Constant Contact. What do you think? And they'll tell me their opinion. So you not only have research, you have information, you have customer feedback. All of those things are valid and will help you make a decision. And you have intuition. Your body and your mind will tell you if something's not right. And if you hear it and you sense it, take a step back and think about what it is that is making you reticent. It might be that it's not the right service for you. It might be that you don't need it now. It might be that it's not financially prudent at this time. It might be that there's just something wrong and you can't figure it out. Take your time. Implementing security precautions and server-based security software is important, and knowing how safe your data is and what they're doing with it, you really do need to be very clear about that. One thing that's really important is compliance. Depending on your industry, if you're in the financial industry, if you are in medical services, you have a lot of compliance issues, as do all industries. Those are serious. I have a client that's a psychologist. She wants to use Dropbox, but she really can't because it's not HIPAA compliant. It's right there in the text. I took a class on cloud software recently, and the instructor had written in the instruction book that it was compliant. Mobily, right there on the spot, I pulled out my iPhone, I went to Dropbox, I wanted to see if they had made a change in the last couple weeks. This was important to my customer service. I need to tell my clients that they can use Dropbox, and I was ready to, I almost emailed her to say, yay, you can use Dropbox. Wait a minute, I backed up, I took a look, it hadn't changed. She was simply incorrect. So I did tell her, it's not HIPAA compliant. So knowing what those compliance issues are, the more regulated your industry is, the more rules you have to look at. Depending on how big your home company is, if you have a much larger organization that gives you rules and compliance situations, checking with them to make sure they're comfortable with, they approve, and it's okay by them. Frequently, they will give you some basic outlines of things you can and can't do. So being conscious of that, very important.